So what does ethical discretion mean to you?
Allowing two consenting adults to undertake the kind of dating activities that they want between the two of them. It's really their business. So long as they're doing their activities with the consent of the other person, it is ethical to us.
Hey everybody, welcome back into this week's episode of Unhinged. My name is Savannah Rudisell, along with my beautiful co-hosts. We've got Liza Mahachek and Alicia Quarles.
That's right, and today we are joined by Paul Keeble, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for Ashley Madison. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on today.
Okay, you're a brave man coming on with us, because we got some questions for you. Let's talk about the rebranding, and ladies, you take it away with this question.
So the rebrand, originally your motto was life is short, have an affair. Now you've switched it to where desire meets discretion. So can you tell us what the difference is? Because I feel like to my ears, it sounds very similar.
So that's a great question. And it's really a natural evolution for our business that's being driven not so much out of the geniuses that I work with, but more so our actual members. So for years, we've been in business since 2002. We have been the world's #1 married dating site. But there was a really interesting shift that started to occur around 2020, where we started to see a lot of people coming to Ashley Madison to join because they were in what we call a disclosed non-monogamous relationship. Their partners were either aware or participating in their activities. But even more so, last year we saw the trend really explode where 57% of all our new members were single. They weren't coming to Ashley Madison for an affair because they weren't married. They weren't necessarily looking to connect with someone else who's also married. What they were looking to do was date in a variety of different ways, from traditional singles dating, casual dating, to more, extravagant type ideas. But they just really didn't enjoy the public disclosure related to most traditional dating apps. They wanted a little discretion. And so what we finally said internally was, well, our business is shifting without our say in it. So let's adjust to address what our members are actually looking for. And it's the discretion that's brought them there. And so we're doubling down on that and giving people, and particularly women, a place to come where they can manage and control who they interact with more so than other traditional dating apps and create a better connection.
Listen, I'm not the morality police. People, do what you want in your relationship. But if discretion is the key, how can you regain public trust when you had that big breach, when people's information was leaked that wanted that discretion?
Another great question. Obviously, that's 11 years ago. So the reality is, in order for us to be standing here today in 2026, talking about a rebrand and reposition for our business, we've had to address those concerns year over year, and we've rebuilt the trust. When we sat there in 2015, we had roughly 32 million members that had joined since our inception. We've now had more than 91 million people join. So we've had almost double the amount of people join since 2015. So in terms of addressing the trust in relation to our brand and our services, I think that's been well established. And the reason why we saw last year 57% of our members coming through being single is because they've already seen that we've made the adjustments necessary, and they're coming to us for the very thing we're offering, discretion. And I think what they're doing so is not for necessarily looking for sneaky links or stepping outside. What they're saying is, I want to conduct my dating activities without the whole world in. I don't want to put all of my content online where everyone sees it, and then I come into the office on Monday and Bob from accounting notices it because he's also on the same platform and makes a comment. Even if it's not poorly intended, it comes across as a bit rude and for a lot of women gross. And so what they're saying is, I want to have more control. I want to manage my dating so that the eyeballs that see me are the ones that I'm really looking for, and less so others.
So Paul, walk us through this. What does that look like as far as how you say you're offering more privacy? What is that different than anyone else choosing to put limited information on a public profile?
Great question. Part of it is the technology, the product in itself, and the other part of it is really the culture that our members have cultivated over the years. So the first thing you'll notice when you sign on to Ashley Madison is that the majority of people do not have a face profile picture, because they're seeking discretion. So they'll have a well-written bio. We do tend to find that our members are a little bit more honest about who they are and what they're looking for. And what that engenders is a better response rate, because you have to read through what this person is looking for to see if you're a good match. And then the system also works slightly differently compared to other traditional dating apps, where most apps have a subscription model where a guy can go on a Friday night, swipe right on 100 women, and then that woman wakes up Saturday morning and she is just inundated with hundreds, if not potentially more, profiles to go through to really sift through what's a real connection and what's not. And it's really fatiguing and burdensome on the woman. So men on Ashley Madison will use credits to initiate a conversation with the woman. And if she responds, their conversation can be free going forward, which is amazing, because then the man can come back weeks, months later if that connection doesn't completely fulfill all his needs, and his credits will still be there. He's not paying that monthly subscription to maintain his account while he's having a relationship. And it allows him to be more purposeful and gives women better choices and not having their inbox completely filled with guys who are clearly not a good match for them.
Well, what's the vetting process? Since you obviously have these privacy settings up where you're not seeing pictures and all that, how do you know who you're talking to is who they say they are?
Well, that's something that every dating person who does dating has to sort of go through. And part of it is building up that conversation. And one of the things we do have the capacity for on the site is we do have a private photo sharing locker. So if I do engage with somebody and I make a connection, I can send my key to her and she can send her key to mine. And we can look at each other's photos to make sure, okay, that's physically, aesthetically, that's pleasing. That's what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't go any further, I can retract the key and they no longer have access. And there's no screen captures allowed on any of our apps. So those things really help. But ultimately, we've built our whole model around this concept of ethical discretion. So people can communicate. And like I said, once you've made that initial connection, your conversation can be free going forward. So people aren't feeling the pressure. And so they can take their time to vet, converse, and build up a sense of trust so they can identify the person that, oh, this person's legitimate. They're looking for what I'm looking. I was able to ascertain, based on 2 days, 3 days, a week's worth of conversations, that they match what I'm looking for and are the type of individual I want to go out in public with.
Well, hold on, Paul. You keep referring to ethical discretion, and I want to kind of break down what that really means, because you said, you're not asking your applicants or your users all to be that upfront with all of their information. You're touting about 57% are single. That still leaves 43% who are not. So what does ethical discretion mean to you?
Allowing two consenting adults to undertake the kind of dating activities that they want between the two of them. It's really their business. So long as they're doing their activities with the consent of the other person, it is ethical to us. It is not our business. And a perfect example of this story from the other side was the Coldplay affair. We saw two people exposed who did nothing wrong. And the story was well told afterwards. Unfortunately, this woman was already in the midst of a divorce. She was not having an affair, but people jumped to conclusions. So the public scrutiny, and we're not talking celebrities or people who are famous in any way, shape, or form, just regular, normal people, but yet the online mob attacked them. And so ethical discretion is the idea that my business is mine until you're lucky enough to be invited into it. And once you are, we build a level of trust and connection that isn't for others, it's just for us.
Well, you said did nothing wrong, but Kristen Cabot, the woman you're talking about, went on Oprah and she said actually something was done wrong because Rodney, her boss actually was married and he wasn't separated like he told her he was. So I guess at what point does morality play a role in Ashley Madison if people are lying about the status of their relationships?
Well, so you're cherry picking one individual's type of relationship, obviously an affair. But there's so many other types of relationships that people are looking for. And with the rise of ethical non-monogamy, since 2020, we were tracking more than 20% of our membership were identifying as being in some form of an open or disclosed non-monogamous relationship. And whose judgment is it to decide whether that's right or wrong? And I think part of the issue we're facing in society is that people want to transfer their version of a righteous relationship onto others. And so what we're giving people is the capacity to conduct their affairs as they see fit without the public eye. It's not your business how they date. It's their business how they date. Now, if someone's lying to the other individual, then that's not ethical discretion.
Right.
Right.
Right. And in fairness to Alicia too, it's
Yeah.
not necessarily cherry picking examples. Just again,
Yeah.
talking with what you're talking
Yeah.
with. Exactly. You brought up the Coldplay example here.
Mhm.
Again, I think where we're looking at ethical, we're not looking at necessarily polygamous relationships, the ethical non-monogamy, where you get multiple consenting partners all being open with one another about who is seeking what outside of that connection, and perhaps Ashley Madison being the place to do so, or any other dating app. It's looking at the hurt that comes in the wake of affairs from others who are not necessarily aware that there is an additional relationship being sought here. I think kind of the question is, just to clarify, I there's no requirement. You don't have to be married, you don't have to be single, you don't have to be in any kind of open or, um, again, polyamorous relationship. This is just, we're trusting you to come to us with good intentions? Is that kind of what this rebrand
Well, we're
feels?
trusting you to take care of your business with good intentions. We're providing a place where you can conduct those and have these ethical conversations, these ethical, discrete connections. People are tired of living their lives in the digital world, the social media era, where everything has been curated online and we put our whole lives out there for exposure. And people, I think, for the past 25 years have suddenly, come to the realization that it's not really everyone's business. And it's not out of shame or guilt. It's just simply an understanding. I don't need to live online. And this is coming into the dating world. People are fatigued with their traditional dating experience on the traditional dating apps, and they want something a little different. And I think the trend of single people coming to Ashley Madison, yes, last year was 57. I'm going to be fascinated in it this year where we're at, because I think that's going to continue to grow because people are seeking something different. So our heritage in married dating gave us the platform of discretion because we had to use that for a very different reason, obviously. But our members are shifting how they use our service. And the reality is, what you do on Ashley Madison, you can technically do other places, but with a lot more scrutiny and a lot more people looking in onto what you're doing. We've purposely built and designed our app for those who are seeking an experience that others can't see into until you invite them in. And I think that shift is the more traumatic part. And I get our history. And I take no issue with the criticism we face, running a previously a married dating service, but that business model has shifted. I think in the next 20 years, you're not going to see even double-digit percentage of people coming to our site looking for that type of activity.
Perfect. Well, Paul, we want to thank you so much for your candor. We appreciate you answering all of our questions.
We've got a couple more questions, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
When we come off from this, is take a quick break here for you before we let you go here just yet. Unhinged. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Unhinged. We are sitting down with the Chief Strategy Officer for Ashley Madison. We got Paul Keeble. Now, Paul, we were talking, you said that building on the heritage of your site, this is a long-running institution and with quite the reputation, to say the least. How do you combat people who are not necessarily combat, but rather, how do you address the concerns that some people have saying, I'm going to go on Ashley Madison as a single person and only find married people?
Well, they're not going to, number one. But number two, why is it our business to determine other people's morality? Why is it our business to judge how they're conducting their affairs? So long as they're being upfront, long as they're being honest with the individual they're having their connection with, why is it my business? In the part of the thing that people often misunderstand about that type of activity is it isn't always what it appears to be. We don't know the conversations that one party's had if they are married or not married or in a relationship. We don't know the nature of the conversations. We don't know what they've agreed to or not agreed to. And it's not for our public consumption. And so what we're saying is, through the lens of ethical discretion, you can choose to join Ashley Madison, connect with the type of people for the activities you're looking for. And the range has always been varied. It never was as simple and as singular as one type of connection. It was a much grander, concept. And it's now being broadened with the rise of ethical non-monogamy, with the rise of discrete tight connections in dating, and people who are looking for something that's just a little bit different without the public eye. Discretion gives them that comfort, but others knowing, coming to Ashman, that that's what they're looking for. And I think that's one of the differences. You sign up to a traditional dating website, you're expecting traditionally to find someone who's looking to date, potentially build a long-term relationship, and that's usually the expectation. That isn't necessarily the expectation, Ashley Madison. That forces people to a degree to read the profiles, to make better connections, and so that people aren't being deceived and go down a path and being disappointed because they meet a great person, but they're not looking for the same thing. On Ashley Madison, the options are varied and wide, but the disclosure is up front with a bit of discretion. And I think that creates a far better dynamic.
Do you think that, you've seen a decent number of long-lasting relationships that have come out of these connections on Ashley Madison?
Oh, I've had over the years many people get married on Ashley Madison. I've had long-term relationships sustained and created every variety of a successful dating story you can imagine, and many, many more have occurred. I've been with the company since 2013, so I've been through all the ups and downs, and I've heard every day. I kind of think, oh, I've heard the most amazing story. I'll never hear anything better, and my team brings me a new one. So yeah, I still have a member that reaches out to us every once in a while. He and his now wife met on Ashley Madison, I think, 15 years ago, and they've had a long-term loving marriage since then. And I think that's amazing that we were able to put those two people together.
Well, you haven't been with the company since 2013. How's Ashley Madison been able to survive scandal and then thrive, especially with so many new dating sites out there and dating options? I feel like it's a very competitive field.
It is a very competitive field. I think part of it is one that we're very bold in the nature of what our business has always been, and we're very straightforward about what we've offered. I think we've been very clear to the market about what we're offering, why we're offering, and who we're offering it to. In this rebrand, obviously, we're going to have to do a lot of conversation about what it means because it is a big shift under certain circumstances. But I think the honesty and the direct nature of how we've presented our business and how we talk with our members is the reason we still stand today. And, I think about so much of the competition that we have faced over the years and the other brands, and our mark on culture is so unique. I mean, there's literally a whole episode on The Simpsons about our business. Not a lot of businesses, period, can say that. And I think it represents where we stand. I think, despite some of the failings we've had in our, long history past, we've been able to overcome those and come back because people are looking for what we offer, and we're committed to that promise to our members.
Fair to say that there's all different types of people on all different types of services when it comes to dating. But in some of the surveys that Ashley Madison has put out and released some of those results, one of them was looking to, okay, I believe the title was "What Are You Faithful To?" And they believe 87% of respondents to this particular Ashley Madison survey said they would rather cheat on their partner than cheat on their taxes. 85% say they would rather cheat on their favorite or they would rather cheat on their spouse than their favorite takeout restaurant.
So, Van, I think men, that they must have polled men.
Well, this is respondents from Ashley Madison. I don't believe I saw a gender breakdown of this particular survey. So when you have this is what's putting out, 49% of respondents in a separate survey say that they seek additional relationships during times of stress. These kind of numbers seem to be indicative of the clientele who are still using Ashley Madison. Is that fair to say?
Well, no, because you'd have to look at the date of that survey. So that's a few years old, if my memory is correct. Right. So that's 2 years old. And so we still were in the business of married dating at the time. Though our business model was clearly shifting, we were surveying those members who identified themselves in a relationship so that when we get the data back, we're asking people of that nature. We weren't asking 30 million members. We were asking a smaller subset those questions because that was the nature of our business. So we sought out information from users who would have identified with that type of activity. They weren't necessarily people who were singular and looking for something different that would have addressed that survey. So it is indicative of where we were 2 years ago. But like I said, our business is shifting, and now we're addressing what our members are asking of us and creating a better dynamic for them and giving them the space and honoring what they've come here for by shifting our business model.
What do you feel like your biggest challenges for the business here in the months ahead here as you're moving through with this rebrand?
Obviously, I think the biggest challenge is helping people understand that we have shifted, why we've shifted, and what's available at Ashley Madison. Because I think obviously we have a huge history and a brand recognition that surpasses a lot of really, much bigger brands from a certain perspective. And so we want people to know we're still in business, that we have 50,000+ people joining weekly, if not more, who are looking probably for the very same thing you are in some capacity. And with that discretion, you have the opportunity to explore without everybody seeing what your business is. And I think that will be our biggest challenge and our biggest opportunity.
Oh, I'm looking for a sugar daddy. I'm going to call you. Just kidding. Just kidding, but not really.
Again, looking
Thanks,
for
Paul.
all types of
Yeah.
types of different relationships. Paul, thank you
so
so
much
for
for answering our
joining us.
questions.
Yeah. Again,
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a hot topic for sure. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people who have their ideas of what's right for them and what's right for their partner, and all the more reason to communicate
That's
with
it.
anybody that you're in or possibly in a relationship with. Welcome back into Unhinged. We are talking about dating with a little bit of discretion. This is funny. This is really one of the most common questions that I get from people who don't know me super well,
Right.
but want to know about my love life. Busybodies, maybe, of course.
Girl, who isn't one that?
You know, we all want to know.
Yeah, this is like you work for Queen City News. Like, do you ever have trouble dating? I'm curious as to what you guys have experienced in your time working in the industry.
I always, whenever I'm on dating apps, I don't put the fact that I'm a journalist or anything like that, that I work in news or anything involving TV. I just
Right.
don't put that on my profile. And then also when I'm meeting people, whether it is friends or also like potential love interests, I'm not really advertising the fact that I'm on TV. Because first of all, it just kind of like steers the conversation away
Right.
from like whatever you're planning on talking about.
It can, yeah.
And so, because a lot of times then people have questions, which is so fair, but it's like, you know, this is just our day to day. So it's like, I typically just don't really bring it up until later.
And I've seen that in action. I've seen you do this. I've watched them. I was gonna be like, oh, we work together,
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
like,
just
nah.
like, we're in communication.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so beautiful,
Exactly.
and it was just
Because then you just don't really have to, like, then it's not like, oh, you're on TV, which also,
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
The people that we're talking to probably aren't really watching a ton of cable. They probably aren't really watching a ton of TV news.
Mhm.
So it's not like they're going to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I watch you every day.
Right,
Like,
right,
you know,
right.
that's not what I think that any of our worries is, but like,
for potential partners, not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've always told people like I don't care, but the thing is, I will say once you get into a long-term relationship, a lot of times it's worked against me, meaning that guys get resentful because
Interesting.
people always do want to know what do you do? Oh my god, you touch celebrities. Oh my god, oh my god,
yeah.
and it does steer the conversation that way, and eventually you start shining the relationship not because you mean to, just because it's part of your job. It's
Yeah.
what you do, and guys can get super resentful. But I'm definitely not gonna like hide what I do. It's just it is what it is. You
Yeah.
take like me or don't. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't feel like discretion is something I necessarily need to like really look for necessarily. You know what I mean? I don't put like where I work on my dating
Sure.
profile, but that's more so a safety thing.
Right.
So I feel
Yeah.
like I kind of hit that same level as a lot of women do. I think a lot of women, especially who are online dating, are using discretion every single day. And so
Yeah.
it's not necessarily about, oh, who do you want to see? Who do you not want to see? It's that level of how much information you're just giving out.
Exactly.
That's
It's true. Just in terms
Mhm.
of safety. Now,
Yeah.
Alicia, I know you
Yeah.
said that being on Raya, that's something where, you know, this is a different dating platform where you kind of do share what you do.
Right.
Mhm.
Raya is for like quote unquote celebrities. And that's, yeah, you literally share what you do.
Mhm.
So I think that platform is kind of equal opportunity because everybody on that platform is in the industry in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
So nobody's really going to be impressed with your job because everybody has pretty cool, creative, interesting jobs. So it's just not really been an issue for me being on TV or, you know, being a journalist. I think I've always dated people industry adjacent that just get it, but they also have interesting jobs too.
Do you feel like it was different in New York versus Charlotte?
I think so because New York is, I mean, Charlotte's a big finance community, right?
Mhm.
That's like we got finance bros. In New York, I was around a bunch of creatives where everybody, like, you know, so and so worked at the Tonight Show, so and so was on tour with Madonna, but that was just the norm. That's not even name dropping. Just people had cool jobs, so
Yeah.
you didn't think about it and didn't hinder you in dating. The biggest hindrance were, are you going to be in the city at the same time? Because nobody was ever. We just weren't there together.
But that's the other
Yeah.
thing. That's the issue that I feel like comes up with Raya specifically is that
Mhm.
these are people who, of course, you know, there are some people on there who have money to fly you to wherever they are,
Mm,
but it's like,
true.
you know, you aren't in that direct exact same space.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it's true. You're not in the same space. So you might literally connect with somebody from Lebanon and be like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, they live there. Cool. So that's the.
And Alicia's like, she's like, I don't know. I just haven't really gone on dates. I'm like, well, maybe it's because he's hundreds of miles away.
No, before these kids, y'all, I get on the plane and be flued out. But
That's right.
those days are over. Okay, this is my suburban mom days. So yeah, I think I need to get off Raya. I don't think Raya is like where I'm at right now.
Well, that's coming up on one episode of Unhinged. We got to get you on Hinge.
Yes, get me on
On
Hinge,
Hinge.
girls. Get me on Hinge. I'm ready. I'm ready to meet somebody IRL. All right, ladies, that'll do it for another episode of Unhinged. It's been eye-opening with Ashley Madison. We're talking discretion, and Dating in the Spotlight. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.